after maybe a strenuous day that your back would be sore at the end of the shift, or maybe when you get up the next morning it'd be a little bit sore, and it just seemed to get worse and worse as the years went by. But as far as hurting my back, I didn't actually have anything fall on me or do anything out of the ordinary. It just was a muscle pain that just continuously got worse.
Never stopped hurting. It was like living with pain day in and day out. I used to get the girls here to rub me with A535 every so often when it's too bad that I couldn't stand it. You know, I still kept coming to work though.
At first, it just seems like body has a pain. It's just there and it's annoying. But as it gets worse, things start happening. You start losing strength, and it bothers your sleep. You're constantly waking up, and every morning that you wake up, you know it's going to be there. So you're already starting off the day with pain, much less to go in and make it worse.
I had surgery done in 1990, 1 month apart, both of them. But what really brought this on was I was given a job change, put into assembly. It was just the same thing, 8 hours a day, the same thing, 8 hours a day. I was originally diagnosed in 1985, but not bad enough to warrant surgery. So I just figured that, like a lot of jobs, this was part of the job, that maybe, you'd get used to it, the pain would go away.
The workers you just met, and many thousands of others, all suffer from some form of musculoskeletal injury. Maybe you do too, or maybe you're at high risk of becoming an MSI statistic. Because today in North America, musculoskeletal injuries happen more often than any other form of occupational injury, and their growth continues at an alarming rate. Lost time and the financial impact of MSIs are huge, but more important is the pain and suffering experienced by affected workers over weeks, months, years, a lifetime. The cause, more often than not, is an evolving workplace that places unnatural demands on our bodies that can cause musculoskeletal injuries in many parts of the body. The neck and back, shoulders, elbow, wrist, fingers, knees, and feet. Most MSIs are cumulative in that they develop over a period of time as the result of wearing. And sometimes a cumulative MSI can suddenly become apparent or acute through a work-related change, like the introduction of a new work process. The trouble is, unlike a cut or broken bone, MSIs are not visible and consequently are not always treated with the seriousness they deserve.
And when I went in for my surgery, I went under the anaesthetic saying, I hope they find something. I hope it's not all in my head.
Every worker is unique. Not all experience the same pain or the same injuries. That's why workplace partners must focus on preventing the causes of injury by understanding, identifying, controlling, or eliminating risk factors. A good place to start is understanding how your body works. The bones are your body's framework. Your muscles move your bones by contracting and relaxing. And they also absorb the stress of impact to protect your bones from damage. Muscles are attached to bones by tough elastic tissue called tendons. Ligaments connect bones to one another. They are strong, pliable, and let joints move within safe limits. Cartilage is the gristle-like covering on a joint. And each joint is surrounded by a capsule which produces a fluid that lubricates the joint. Nerves transmit messages from your brain to your muscles and send back signals like pain and discomfort. Pain and fatigue are often the early symptoms of an MSI, perhaps accompanied by swelling, numbness, tingling, and feelings of heaviness in the injured area. Symptoms can be gradual.
the worst pain would be at night. The numbness in the daytime, actually, while you're at work, but the worst pain was at night because you get this throbbing pain, and I'd have to hang my arm over the bed and give it a shake. It just...
Anita has one of the more common musculoskeletal injuries. It's called carpal tunnel syndrome. Workers like Anita, who perform tasks in awkward postures, do repetitive work, or are exposed to force or direct pressure, can develop carpal tunnel syndrome. The carpal tunnel is a tight, rigid space between the carpal bones in the base of the palm. The median nerve, which supplies sensation to the thumb and 3 of your fingers, passes through this tunnel, along with other nerves, blood vessels, and the finger tendons. Repetitive and awkward hand motions can inflame the tendons, causing them to squeeze the very sensitive median nerve, creating tingling, numbness, and pain in the hand, especially at night.
The numbness is what set in afterwards, and that's when I had visited the specialist, and he said it was time for surgery. He said there could possibly be permanent nerve damage too, just from using the same muscles from the repetitious jobs.
Sometimes I'd wake up and these 2 fingers here would be touching the palm of my hand, and like I'd have to grab my fingers and pull them open, and you'd feel it up your arm here, and then I'd have to grab my elbow and my arm and give it a couple of movements just to get so that the stiffness would go out of it, and then it'd be okay, and then I could move it.
Bruce had another of the common MSIs, tennis elbow, or epicondylitis. This is a painful inflammation on the outside of the elbow where the muscles that raise the wrist attach to the bottom end of the upper arm bone. Severe inflammation can cause pain to radiate into nearby ligaments and nerves and into the forearm. Because the wrist accommodates such a wide variety of hand activities, prevention of tennis elbow is difficult. Avoid twisting tools and reverse wrist curl activities.
You still had to go out there and do a day's work, which, hey, I love my job, but, you know, sometimes if it just don't operate, what are you going to do? You got to wait and get it fixed up, and then you're back in action again.
I couldn't get him to walk, so I reached to grab him this way to hold him while I reached for his wheelchair, and I felt it rip from here up.
Ray Jones suffered an acute musculoskeletal injury to her shoulder. A more common injury, usually from cumulative trauma, is bursitis. Bursitis can occur in the knees, elbows, or shoulders. The bursa is a sac which produces lubricating fluid. Extended periods of friction or force make the bursa create more fluid, causing the bursa to swell and the walls to become thick and inflamed. The joint becomes swollen and painful to move. Bursitis, sometimes coupled with other injuries, can severely limit your lifestyle.
There's lots of things I can't do. I can't do heavy work around the house. I can't do my gardening like I used to be able to do. I can't lift my grandson up like I used to be able to do.
The jackleg is probably the main cause of my back, because I do believe that each time that I did hurt my back, I think I was on a jackleg at all times.
Unlike other musculoskeletal injuries, the first symptoms of back problems are usually pain and discomfort, and the longer you work with these symptoms, the greater your risk of permanent damage. Your spine is made up of 33 bones, or vertebrae, that connect the head to the pelvis. Your spine protects your spinal cord and gives flexibility to your body. The facet joints join together the bony projections at the back of the spine. The spacers between your vertebrae are called discs. Each is made up of a strong outer wall called the annulus and an inner jelly-like part called the nucleus that acts as a shock absorber. Age causes discs to gradually dry and flatten, closing the space between joints and eventually pinching nerves and tissues. This is called degenerative disc disease, and it can be accelerated by awkward postures, movements, and injury. A herniated disc occurs when the jelly-like fluid pushes through rips in the outer wall. This too can cause a pinched nerve, usually causing pain, tingling, numbness, and weakness in a leg.
If you have to bend down, if you have to pick anything up, you definitely should be careful how you do it and put yourself in a position where you can use your legs instead of your back.
Early identification of symptoms is one key to limiting the effects of musculoskeletal injuries like these. But the vital element lies in identifying the risk factors that promote MSIs and eliminating them. No matter what your job is, there are certain factors that put you at a higher risk of being injured. These factors fall into two basic categories: job demands and workplace components. And when you think about them, they're mostly just good common sense. Take job demands. The three major job demands are posture, force, and repetition. Any posture, that is, any work position that requires you to stand or sit awkwardly or in the same position for a long time, can cause problems. Force, meaning any forceful exertion that overload muscles, tendons, and ligaments, can lead to MSI. Repetition, repeated movement, especially using the same muscles over and over again, without enough rest, wear the body down and can cause damage, irritation, and swelling. The workplace components that contribute to MSI are workstations that aren't designed to fit your body's natural range of motion, equipment and tools that are difficult or awkward to operate, that require too much force, that vibrate or are noisy, manual materials handling, having to lift, lower, push, pull, or carry items in ways that put an extra load on your back. Then there are environmental factors that can contribute to MSIs, things like temperature extremes. Hot and cold temperatures make the body work harder. Lighting, glare, and poor lighting can force awkward postures. Vibration can reduce the size of blood vessels and blood flow to the muscles. And finally, there is poor work organization, usually meaning a worker with too much to do, not enough breaks, work demands exceeding the worker's capability, having to work at a fast machine-controlled pace, or lack of work variation, any or all of which can lead to physical problems. Of course, training is important too. Learning how to do the job. Use tools safely. As a worker and supervisor, you should have a major say in how your job is done. It's only common sense. The people who do the job often know how to do it best, or at least most safely. And employers benefit through reduced injuries and injury costs, increased productivity, and improved quality control. Any way you look at it, it's a win-win situation. In the next module, we'll look at ways to design workstations, tools, and jobs to fit the worker and reduce MSI.
What they are doing is they're getting away from the jackleg a lot and they're going to these McLean bolters